demoing one of the old structures that's on the property, and she's getting a second structure reclassified through Boone County to update the property record card. Anyway, those changes trickle down to where she can do the project without needing variances. So she's just withdrawing this for that reason.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to withdraw that petition.
I move that we withdraw petition 2025-20-DSV, development standard variance pursuant to section 194.097C to exceed the maximum height for an accessory building in the rural single-family residential zoning district.
Mr. Hurst, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any further discussion? All in favor with aye? Aye. Unanimously passed. Thank you. The next item on the docket is petition number 2025-18-DSV, and this is a continuance request. Mr. Smith?
So this one it's still going to need variances. It's still kind of a work in progress. One of the avenues that the owner is exploring, Mr. Kennedy, is properties in the village. If that alleyway vacation is approved, which those are handled by town council, if that's approved, it'll change the amount of square footage that he has on his property, which will impact his lot coverage calculations and might impact any front yard setback encroachments that he is requesting. Unfortunately, the earliest town council agenda that he could get on was July 21st. So he's continuing this request to give town council time to determine about the alleyway vacation. Then depending on that action, he will alter his site plan accordingly. And the hope is he can avoid variances and we can hopefully withdraw this one at the next meeting. If not, it'll be ready to be heard at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The chair will entertain a motion to continue this petition. Do I have a motion to continue?
Sure. I move we continue docket 2025-18-DSV. That's probably all we need for that.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any further discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That will be continued until our meeting in August.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I interrupt for a moment?
Certainly.
And I was neglected to introduce our new associate planner.
Thank you.
Jose Trujillo. Jose is our newest planner with the town of Zionsville as associate planner. And you'll be seeing more of him as we have our meetings with the BZA and also Plan Commission.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Jose. The next item on the agenda is docket number 2025-13-DSV, and this is a petition that was continued from our June meeting. Is the petitioner here this evening? Mr. Zartman? Okay, thank you very much. We'll let staff give the report, and then you'll have your opportunity. Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so to be respectful of time, I'm happy to ask any questions, but, summarizing, staff report hasn't changed since the previous meeting. I guess to give you the update on what occurred from the last meeting till now, essentially he was continued with some instructions or guidance to try to find a solution, work with staff, try to find a solution. Unfortunately, as staff, I believe we've exhausted really every avenue available to us administratively to try to get a solution for this gentleman. One of the ones that was discussed during the previous meeting was a green roof or a living roof. We explored that idea as well. Ultimately, for the green roof example, that was still going to calculate toward lot coverage, engineering, and as well as Mike Dell. I tried to convince both, but I did not succeed in that argument. So long story short, staff, we explored about as many avenues as we possibly could. And the reality is, to make this project happen, he needs you to approve a variance, or he needs to find something on his site to remove. And the only thing on his site is part of his house. So remove part of your existing structure, don't do the project, or get a variance from the BZA. Those are the options that we landed at. And then unfortunately, staff's position still has not changed as it relates to hardship. We believe hardships just simply cannot be self-created. And for that reason, staff still does not support this request. Happy to answer any questions y'all have related to the staff report or any questions that came up over the last month.
Any questions for staff or Mr. Smith?
I'll note, we have one BZA member here that was not here last time, and wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to understand the staff report more fully if you felt you needed to.
I've reviewed it.
Okay,
Awesome.
sorry, thank you.
And just to be certain, the lot coverage that they're requesting is 38, a little over 38%, is that correct?
So there was some confusion in the last discussion about what number should we ask for. I think the petitioner was at 37 and some change, and I was at 38. The confusion or the discrepancy in that number, staff typically during our zoning reviews, we draw our numbers from the Boone County Property Record Card. And if we use that number, the petitioner's number is accurate, right? The problem with that is the petitioner turned in a survey with his application, and the survey that was done shows that my number is accurate, right? So to prevent any confusion, I went with the higher number because typically the county can have some leeway, they can have some discrepancies. They are not a licensed surveyor, right? So I am relying on the licensed surveyor that did the survey that was turned in with the application. Worst case scenario, we get 38% lot coverage. If y'all were to approve this, we get approved at 38% lot coverage, and he only does 37 and some change. That's worst case scenario. What I wanted to avoid is the opposite happening, where we go with his lower number and it's at 37%. And then through some means of correcting their Boone County Property Record Card, he actually needed to be at 38. And then we got a problem, right? So I went with the higher number just out of an abundance of caution. If y'all, for the number 37 or 38, it's not going to change staff's positioning. But if y'all guys decide to approve it, if we go with 38%, it acts as a buffer for the petitioner and avoids any headache for him in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further questions? Any questions?
You said 38, is it 38.1%?
Yeah, 38, I'm sorry, I don't have my staff report pulled up in front of me,
It's
but
38.1.
the number that's in the staff report is the higher of the two numbers, and that was done intentionally just to cover in case there was discrepancies. So,
Mr. Zartman, if you would come to the podium, please, and give your name and address for the record. And you can, it's good to see you again.
Jeff Zartman, 980 West Pine Street. Yeah, a couple things. I know one gentleman wasn't here last time, but lot sizes, couple things. One was, last time it was brought up that aren't all those lots the same in that area, because on the plot plan that was for that area, it showed every one of them exactly the same, which were like 6,000 square feet. But they were never built that way. They are all a lot and a half or 2 lots. Of the 12 lots that surround me, 8 of them are over 7,000, 6 of them are over 8,000 square feet. The ones right next to me are 10,500 and 9,200, and another one down the street at 14,000 square feet. So those lot sizes were a lot bigger than what was on the plot, just like the property code said one thing, and the survey that the mortgage company did said something else. So those discrepancies happen. And my position last time, and still is today, is the standards say 8,000 square foot minimum lot size for building in that area and in the village. This house was allowed to be put on a 6,098 square foot lot. I know you say it can't be self-created, but I feel like the lot created the issue, because by the time you put a house on it, there's no space for anything else. We have a small ranch house, just trying to get a structure to put a mower, snowmobile, some of my tools, because I like to do workshop stuff in the wintertime. I got all kinds of table saws, power saws laid in my house downtown that we want to sell. In the wintertime, that's my therapy, is going in the shop and working. I can't do that if I don't have some place to have the tools. I don't think I'm creating this. I think the lot size is creating it. I mean, I know there's several homes that cover more than 35% in the village. There's some right down the street from me, they're 45, 50% coverage. Not sure what their hardship was. One of them was a brand-new home. I know that's all subjective from your side. I'm just saying I know you say there's no precedent, but really there is. It's been done in the village several times. I'm just asking for going from 35 to 37 so that I can have my equipment here, do my therapy in the winter, live happily here, close to my family that I moved up here to be by. Not sure else what I can tell you other than, just trying to make it a good home. It will upgrade that street. This garage accessory building will look better than any of the 10 other sheds, accessory buildings down my alley. And that's why I never thought there'd be an issue when I moved here. Drive down my alley and there's 1 or 2 accessory sheds on each side of the alley, all the way down my alley. I had no idea there'd be a concern about putting an accessory building on my property. I don't know if that should be something that's put in when people set it up for sale, that there's limitations. Because I wouldn't have considered it. Obviously, I didn't. So, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Zartman. Any questions for the petitioner? Josh?
I wasn't present last time, but have you spoken with your neighbors about this?
Yeah, 2 of them were here last time, spoke up, wanting to support the project. I've talked to the others, and they're all like, we have no issues with it. Look at our sheds out here. So they're all for it. Ms. Miller brought up the living roof last time. I researched it, willing to do that if that makes an issue, solves the issue with lot coverage by having a living roof on top of this shed. Staff didn't think that they would support that, but that is an option I would give if that makes a difference. We are going to make sure we have proper drainage, so that's not an issue, even though they put new drainage down the alley to make sure there was no drainage issues because of the new houses that they put in the last 2 years. So there's new drainage in the alley. I'm going to put drainage around the shed and in the yard to make sure there's no issues there. So aesthetics will be good, drainage will be good. Not sure what else I can do.
He did actually have 2 people speak on his behalf at the last meeting. John, is there anyone online that is wanting to speak, or anybody here in the room that would like to speak about this petition? Okay, thank you. Anyone here who would like to speak? Any other questions for the petitioner? No? Discussion? Oh, thank you. Any thoughts, discussion?
I do appreciate the conversations that the petitioner had with staff trying to find a resolution. I know this is a project that's important to you. I'm trying to find my way through this, but I had voted against this last time and am very interested in what my fellow members might have to say about it that could help me see a new path.
I think we talked about it quite a bit last time. I really have not changed anything. I do appreciate you working with staff. I appreciate staff trying to dig all different avenues to try to make this work. But 35 there's a reason it's there.
I was kind of one of the outliers because I do think that there is an impact of having a lot that is substantially smaller than your neighbor's lots. And the issues of trying to make a useful place for you to reside. I don't think we want the perfect to be the enemy of the good, as they say. So I guess from my point of view, I think I could define a hardship that the fact that you might have a much smaller lot to start with. So.
I guess I see it the same way, but I'm struggling with the issue of this kind of being self-created. I know you said this is a lot you purchased, but to add onto that lot, I think is a self-created type of issue. So that's where I'm kind of struggling with. And if you have anything to add to that, I'd love to hear it.
And it is what it is. The house is the size it is, and all the porches are built in the house, not extended out, so I can't take a porch off, or I'm not demolishing a house. It's built into the house. The garage is very small. I don't even have a mower or my bike here because it's so small. I borrow my neighbor's mower to mow. And, you know, it's just constraining for me to live a normal, you know, situation in a house. I mean, we bought this house because we are getting older, so we wanted a house, everything's on the main floor. My wife's an occupational therapist, wanted to age in place. So we bought the house because it was a ranch. We bought the house because it was a small enough lot to take care of down the road. But we didn't know that that also put a restraint on having what we need there.
The argument about self-created is this is not a design choice. This is a use choice. The usefulness of the building and having and in some ways, it does create a hardship in not being able to have the place to store the lawnmower and a snow blower, which he generously uses to blow his neighbor's sidewalks off. But in some ways, I think, you know, any construction is self-created because, of course, you make the decision you're going to do it. Location, design choices, are there ways that you could fit that construction into the parameters that are required on that lot? In this case, it would be difficult because the lot itself is so much smaller than its neighbors. So,
And you had those numbers. Can you tell me those numbers again, of the lot sizes compared to your neighbors?
My neighbor to the east of me is 9,148. West of me is 10,454. 3 houses down, 13,939. Directly behind me, 9,148. Across the street from me, 8,270. I mean, several lots there. I mean, if I had any of those lots, we wouldn't be here today. I mean, that's.
yeah.
Mr. Zartman?
Yes.
Looks like you're proposing a 260 square foot building. How much latitude do you have in terms of getting it somewhat smaller?
Well, as I said, selling the downtown house, which we'd like to do, I have a 24 by 26 accessory building there that has all my woodworking stuff in it. And I'd like to be able to move that there and wood and be able to, you know, build things and do things I do in the wintertime. So it's kind of hard to shrink that. I've always shrunk it down. Originally, I wanted to go much bigger, but
Sure.
I heard that I couldn't do that, so
Yeah.
I got it down to what I have it now.
Yeah. Well, seeing that the board is somewhat divided on this issue, you might consider offering a smaller structure. Better that than no structure, perhaps.
Versus 36 going to make any difference? I
Might.
mean, it's either 35 or, I mean, I don't know how much different. I mean, if I go down a little bit on the barn, it might go down 1 or 2 percentage points to 36.9 instead of 37.1. I'm just saying.
That's your
I mean,
call.
I appreciate that.
That's your call.
But you know, I'm trying to do the live roof, the drainage, everything I can to make this work. I mean, I don't know if it's aesthetics to the drainage. I mean, I'm trying to do whatever I can to make that work.
Thoughts about where we are on this so we can, what you're thinking? Any changes in point of view or?
Just to elaborate on Mike's concept that, this is maybe just for myself, 6,000, he needs to knock off, or on a 6,000 square foot lot, he needs to knock off 3%. So that's roughly 180 square feet. Am I right in that thinking? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
According to my math, if we're trying to ask, what could he build without needing a variance, right? That's what I was doing here, 193 square feet.
And the
You got a
proposed,
1971 is the house and garage, 55 is the front porch. And if we take advantage of the 2% impervious, or a 2% pervious credit, right, that's for the village, technically you could get up to 37% lot coverage, right? Problem is, you have to find a way to get 2% of your lot that's developed pervious to take advantage of that credit, right? Huh. But if he was to do that, that would get you 2,220 square feet. 2,200, actually, hold up. 6,000.37, 222, so minus 1971 and minus 55. So yeah, it would leave you 193 square feet remaining if you took advantage of the 2% pervious surface.
But I'm sorry, Jonathan, how much if he's unable to find a way to make things impervious, how much could he build and stay within the 35%? Is that the,
74 square feet
okay, because
at 35% lot coverage.
and my memory is very fallible, and I'm happy to be corrected, but I believe the use cases at the last meeting were storage of garbage bins and lawnmower or landscaping sort of equipment, I believe, is what we heard the last time we were all together.
woodworking, I mean, he is mentioning his woodworking equipment, which is.
Did he mention that last time?
I don't.
don't recall, actually.
I don't know that we got that, no, but.
I still think we should be going by the square footage on the property card, since I pay property taxes on what's on that card. So I think that's really the square footage we should go by, which is 6,098.
So if that's the case, give you credit for an additional 98 square feet, 35% lot coverage, he would be allowed 172 total square feet.
And what he's proposing is 260 square feet, the building, according to your report.
Yes, ma'am.
Staff report. I mean, there's a point of diminishing returns, in which case it's.
Well, I'm not arguing any of
not
that,
worth
I just,
building. So,
trying to
yeah.
figure out where things are.
At a point where we can make a decision?
I think so.
Yes? Somebody want to make a motion?
I don't remember who made it last time, Josh, was it you or me?
I think I made the last one, but I will welcome anyone else who would like to make it this time.
I tell you that, when you get down to it, we're talking about 100 feet, and it wasn't easy last time, and it's not easy this time. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to, I will make a motion, but I will say that my thinking right now has not changed. I move that docket number 2025-13-DSV Development Standard Variance to exceed the maximum lot coverage in the Urban Residential Village RV Zoning District be denied as presented and described.
Mr. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Fedor? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to deny this petition? Oh, yes, okay, thank you. We'll have a roll call vote. All in favor, Mr.
I'll call
Yeah,
roll.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Dale, sorry.
So an affirmative
Is to deny
is
the.
to deny,
Right.
okay? Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Nay.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Nay.
Tie vote,
So
two
we're,
to two.
I will make a motion that the vote be reconsidered.
thank you, Mr. Hurst. Is there a second? We need a second? Second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion?
This is, for me, a very borderline case. We're missing a member again tonight who I sat next to her at the last meeting. She was passionately for this. I see no reason to require this gentleman to wait another month.
I tend to agree. If you read the cards, it's going to go, we know we're going to be next month on this thing. I understand the thinking on this.
By having a tie vote, it would be continued until next month, is the point that Mr. Hurst is making, so.
Mr. Taylor, I've asked and gotten a second on the reconsideration. What
Right.
needs to happen now?
We need to vote,
We need a vote,
right?
formally reconsidering it, and then somebody can make a new motion.
Right. So, Mr. Dale, if you would take a roll call vote on, please, on the motion to reconsider the previous vote?
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Do we have a new motion on this petition?
I can make a motion.
Thank you.
I move that docket 2525-13-DSV Development Standards variance to exceed the maximum lot coverage in the urban residential village RV zoning district be approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, substantial compliance with the permitted site plans, and evidence presented during the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Any further discussion? Mr. Dale, one more time, please.
Okay, Josh Martin. Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Fedor,
Nay.
Kathy Postlewaite.
Aye.
Motion
Motion
carries.
is approved. It took us a while, but
Thank you very
good
much.
luck with your project.
I appreciate it.
Good luck, sir.
Mr. Smith, are you ready? Next item on the agenda is docket number 2025-16-SE. Brent McCamey is the petitioner here. Okay, very good. We'll have the staff report, and then you'll have your opportunity to come to the podium, give your name and address, and present your petition. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So this is a special exception. This is a pretty common request that we see here at BZA. The property is zoned ag, and in the ag zoning district, single-family residential use or single-family residential homes are not permitted by right in that zoning classification. So the petitioner, the owner, is coming before you guys to get the special exception approved to allow for the construction currently of a single-family residential dwelling. Again, to be respectful of time, staff reviewed this. We looked at the criteria as far as what is required for the approval of a special exception. To summarize our position quickly, we agree with the petitioner as it relates to criteria number 1, which is the proposed use will not be injurious to public health and safety. Criteria number 2, the proposed use will not injure or adversely affect adjacent area or property values. Staff agrees with the petitioner on that criteria. Item number 3, which is the proposed use will be consistent with the district, land uses authorized therein, and the town's comprehensive plan. Once again, staff, we agree with the petitioner. We believe he checks all 3 of those boxes as far as the character, the land uses, and the comprehensive plan. Based off the 3 findings that we've mentioned in our staff report, the information we was able to gather during our research, staff supports this request. We recommend a favorable motion. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for the staff on this petition?
Where does the airport, is this in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of the airport?
I can
Study.
tell you quickly if you let me pull it up on my map here. I didn't make it an exhibit because it was not, I know, in tier 1, which would
Okay.
have prohibited it. I can tell you, give me 2 seconds and I can tell you,
I'm not sure if that's in that tier 2 then, or if it's off to the side of the runway, so it,
where he's wanting to put the house, you'll see a little sliver where kind of the driveway will be proposed is Tier 1. Where he's wanting to put the actual house is Tier 4.
Okay.
And if I go back up here, you can see the site plan. The conceptual layout, we'll go with that. You'll see, if we orient it the way the map was previously, you'll see the proposed driveway, which is this section. That part is slowly or slightly overlapped by Tier 1, but the actual house is up here, so it's in Tier 4.
Okay, thank you.
You will notice that there's a future barn laid out on this site plan. I have notated that there are development standards that would be problematic for a barn of that size. So again, the request is only for the use of single-family residential in ag. We're not here asking for development standard variances to allow this barn or any of that other stuff, okay? Just the use
Gotcha.
for single-family residential. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Other questions for staff? Okay, Mr. McCamey, if you would like to approach the podium, please give your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Brett McCamey, and I live at 1559 Jensen Drive in Carmel. Currently, my wife is with me, Judy, and I also have with me Dan Ponzel, who have Cedar Street Builders. And that property we acquired, 14 plus or minus acres, adjacent to our daughter and son-in-law, who live just to the west. And we share a common barn with them. The barn was on that drawing as a conceptual, no current thoughts of building a barn at this point in time, simply to have a house where my wife can live closer to her animals, and no intent to change the character. Single-family residence, consistent with the character of the current lot. We're looking at, we currently have some sheep, a couple of horses, some chickens, and we very much intend to continue the use as it's currently being used.
Thank you, Mr. McCamey. Are there any questions for the petitioner regarding this property? No? Discussion? You say you have horses that are on that piece of property currently?
I
or-
do, yes.
Yeah, and sheep and other
Yes,
livestock?
correct,
And your intention is to continue to
correct,
have that?
yes.
So, any questions? Are we ready to make a decision, discussion? Oh, thank you very much. Just a moment. Anyone here that would like to speak about this petition? Thank you very much. No one? Anyone online? No? Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have a
Ready for
motion?
Sure. I move that docket 2025-16-SE special exemption to provide for a single-family residence use in the general agricultural zoning district at 11921 East, 100 North be approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted facts of finding of facts, and evidence submitted during the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Fedor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any further discussion? None? Mr. Dale, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite.
Aye. Motion, petition is approved. Good luck with
Thank
your
you so
project.
much.
Thank you. Good. right, the next item on our agenda is petition number 2025-17-DSV. And the petitioner is Brian Spencer. Is Mr. Spencer here this evening? Good. Thank you. You'll have your opportunity in just a second after the staff report. Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Trying to get this orientated the way we can read it there. Okay, so as you mentioned, this is a development standards variance request. The property is zoned R2, which means our development standards are derived from Table 3 in Section 194.082, which requires 5-foot side yard setback. In this case, if you take a look at the site plan, what is proposed is an encroachment into the side yard setback, and you'll see the 2 feet. What that means is rather than having a 5-foot side yard setback, this proposal, which I believe the petitioner identified it as exhibit, well, he's got it listed as exhibit 4, but this proposal here is what they were requesting the variance for, which is to reduce that side yard setback requirement from 5 feet down to 2 feet. Going through the staff report, if you look at the findings that staff has to review when determining whether or not we support a request. Number one, the grant will not be injurious to public health and safety. We agree with the petitioner with that criteria. Number two, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Once again, we agree with the petitioner on that criteria. Where we disagree is item number 3, as it relates to unnecessary hardship. Staff just believes granting of variances should not result from a self-created condition. And in the petitioner's packet, although it's not the preferred design choice, in the petitioner's packet, they did submit a second alternative plan that showed that they could do this project without a variance. Given that information was submitted, staff really had no other option, seeing that there were other options available that you could have designed to do this. We just did not believe that unnecessary hardship was met. So on number 3, we disagree on the petition, or with the petitioner on that. And so because of number 3, staff does not support, we have an unfavorable recommendation as it relates to this petition. If there's any specific information in the staff report that y'all would like to ask questions about, happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you.
Mr. Smith, are there questions for staff about this petition?
I don't have any.
No? Mr. Spencer, if you would like to come up to the podium, please give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, my name is Brian Spencer. I'm at 99574 Ford Valley Lane.
Any information, additional information you can give us about this variance request?
Sure, I mean, I think Jonathan said it well. It's not the preferred design for my girlfriend and I. We really did not want to put the filter, the mechanical equipment on the side wall, which would also be on the side of our house. We were trying to tuck it back right by our wall and right by our HVAC system, so it's not close to the neighbor's house, where we could potentially also be a little bit noisier, and we could hide it a lot easier if it was right beside the house, where we can tuck it away with some wood and some structure that would basically you wouldn't see it, and it would really cut down the noise. Neighbor's great, the neighborhood's great. They're supportive, so we were just trying to make it a little bit better for them. And the part that is where we're looking at, we actually take care, doesn't matter, but we take care of more of the side yard to a tree level. So he didn't even know when I explained it to him that was even his property, or how close the setback was going to be.
So there is, in reading your narrative, I see that there's an easement and there's some other things on that property that mandate that this is the location for this pool, or could you explain a little bit about that, please?
That's correct, yes. Backyard, lovely backyard. There is a creek that runs right behind the house, so the easement really gets almost right to the house at one point. On the other side, that's where all the utilities come in, so that's also not a valid place to put a pool. So this is really the only location, or we'd have to basically demo the very back of our yard, which is all wooded lot, and it'd be disconnected from the house. So that's not logical for us either. So this is the only spot where one would fit. And so we did try to maximize what we could in that space, but there's not even a lot of options to go much smaller than that.
So you have you thought about changing the pool size?
To
To
where
fit
we
into the-
were, it was like we're in the medium-sized class, so it's a very valid question. Dropping to the smaller class would severely shrink the pool size, and in that case, we might consider not even doing the project.
See.
Yeah.
Are there questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, explain to me when you say smaller size class of pool, is this, I'm not going to use the right language here, but this isn't a fully custom pool, is that what you're
Correct.
describing?
That's right.
Okay.
It's a prefabbed fiberglass install that way, yes.
And are you able to describe the size difference between what you're describing as middle and small? I mean, I have no idea of scale of these things.
I do not have the packet, but from a square footage, it was going, the ones that we at least looked at that made sense for our specific location, because a lot of them are oval shaped or different shapes that would not fit in the easement either. Maybe 60% of the volume or less is what, so it was going to be a significant amount of size difference from the pool volume.
Okay, so a reduction in pool size of roughly 40% is
That's what I
is your
remember.
generic understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
According to the narrative, the size of this pool is 11 by 24. The pool that you're proposing to put in this place.
Yep. Which we did ask, because the pool supplier does a lot in our neighborhood, would be, I think, the smallest in the neighborhood at that size.
Questions?
So the proposal that we've got two exhibits here, Exhibit 1 and 2, and I just want to make sure I'm looking at these both correctly. Exhibit 2 is what could be built today. And Exhibit 1 is what,
The one that's on the TV screen right now, which is, yeah, Exhibit 2.
okay.
Exhibit 2 could be built today. We do not prohibit landscaping in the setback. So he would be able to do the trees or shrubs, whatever you're showing there. He just has to cut the concrete off at that awkward angle.
I'm not seeing numbers on Exhibit 2 of what how many feet at each end of this pool and so forth. It would have a little bit of a safety concern with what's available on that, what I would call is that the northwest corner? I just lost it.
Right
There we
here?
go. Yes, it would be the northwest corner there. How many square foot is that paver area on?
Like the walkable distance, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Exhibit 2 there's an area on the northwest side. I'm assuming it looks like it's a 3-foot path around the pool, but it's going to get cut back there. Is that down to what before you get from, I mean, is it even walkable?
It's a good question. I don't think I've ever seen the full design of this one. This was the option that the company gave us as a kind of a backup. But they moved the pool over, I think, 2 to 3 feet. So trying to think, if we're asking for 2 to 3 feet in the setback, it would probably be about the same walking distance if that's the case.
So there would still be 2 to 3 feet of access around the pool.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the distance was for the original design. I'm just saying that I think they moved it accordingly to be the same.
Okay.
Yes.
So you could safely get around the pool and both exhibits, 1 and 2, all right?
So the big question in your mind is the placement of the pool equipment, and you're wanting to place it where you feel it will not be either a visual or an auditory pollutant to
Correct.
your neighbors. And so by putting it between your garage and is my understanding if there's an elevated wall there by the driveway?
Yeah, yeah, you can see it there. where the pool, like the top of the screen where it comes down, that is 9 feet below the rock wall. So it is basically a whole floor below. And so, yes, that would be, if you put it in that nook, it would be completely, it'd be covered by my house and that wall on 2 sides. And then we already have a current structure that's kind of like a storage area, if you want to call it that. So if we finish that off, then it would completely surround it.
But what is not clear to me is the distance between, I'm looking at this Exhibit 2 with the corner that's cut off that fits within the setback. The distance between that equipment that I see there and your neighbor's house. I mean, you're concerned about your neighbor, and I see the equipment that's sitting there beside your house. How close is your neighbor, and what part of their house would be facing that?
So they have, it's like a living room, so it's where they have a fireplace and big windows. And I mean, it's probably not more than like 10 to 15 feet from the line to their house.
We have an overview, a photo that helps us to orient a little bit in understanding that.
Let me pull it up real quick.
Thank you for that request, because I am struggling right now to understand how that overlays.
Not sure Exhibit 1 and 2 are to the exact same scale, to be honest with you.
That too.
I'm just wondering, I'm looking at wall lengths and so forth. I'm not sure these two, Exhibit 1 and 2 are to scale at all.
So here's an aerial from Google. I'm not sure if that's as helpful as you would like it to be.
Actually,
But,
what's in the packet is the aerial that, with the subject site marked, and I think it's helpful. So to be able to see where the neighbor's house is and where this equipment would be placed.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but are you referring to
That's-
placing the equipment?
Yep.
Is this the photo you was talking about?
It is absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
And then for the owner, where my mouse is at, is this where you would want to put it, or is it right here?
It would be even a little bit into the house, because the house kind of tucks over it, yeah.
So kind of in this?
Yep, that's right about where it would be.
So that would be the preferred, but the other option is along that wall
Along this
there,
wall out here?
and with the neighbor, I think that's the neighbor he's talking about, that's within some small distance to that. So any thoughts?
Is your driveway by the garage elevated then?
Yeah, it's grade at the road, and then the back wall where the arrow basically is, so the wall is probably 2 feet tall, and then if you go all the way down from there, it's like 9 feet, maybe 10. So it slopes pretty quick.
I tend to lean too with staff on this. I mean, we're presented with one that's compliant, that works, and then there's one that's wanted. I was hoping we could find something on not having enough walkway around the pool to say, yes, there's some, we're making an unsafe condition or something, but it sounds like that is just, you're still gonna have the same square footage around the pool, so, you know, if you had like a foot and a half little area there where kids could fall in easily or something, I would lean towards maybe giving this, or leaning towards maybe seeing some unnecessary hardship, but I just don't see it.
So, Mr. Smith, there would be options with regard to if the equipment were, this option 2, where we're seeing the equipment along that retaining wall and with the neighbor's property there beside, they could be planting in that setback. They could do plantings around that equipment
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
shield.
Landscaping, trees, bushes, whatever. The only time we prohibit landscaping or things of that nature is when it's an easement. In this case, it's just a setback. There is no easement. I mean, there is an easement, but it's in the back part of the property. It's not on this property line, so he would be allowed to put plantings or trees or shrubs, whatever he'd want.
I got a question for the petitioner. Which of these, I noticed in the filing that there was a letter from your homeowners association giving you the green thumb on, or the green light on this. Which one of these did they look at? Exhibit 1 or Exhibit 2?
Exhibit 1,
Okay.
yes. But they did reference that we needed to make sure we could pass all the rules of the town. But that was when I talked to the HOA, that's what the one they preferred.
Exhibit 1 requiring the variance is the one that the homeowners association has given the green thumbs for. They have not given the green thumb on Exhibit 2 yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Their biggest concern when I talked to them was noise and where the equipment would be contained.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak about this petition? Anyone? Do we have anyone online? Okay. Well, I'm appreciative of your concerns for your neighbor. I think that's laudable, because this equipment does make noise, and it runs all the time. So I appreciate that, and they're also a visual, I don't want to say pollutant, but let's say they're not always pleasant visually, so.
And I'm still thinking this through, but the easement limits where they can put a pool.
Not as if there's a lot of other choices on the lot that would eliminate the setback problem.
He doesn't need an easement to put the pool in. The pool can be put in. Am I right in thinking that the pool can be put in as Exhibit 2 presents? That's compliant with everything, correct, Jonathan?
Yeah, he could have got a building permit
With
for
Exhibit 2
Exhibit 2
with no problems.
a month ago, and we would have been done with this.
But you will, given that you had approval for Exhibit 1, does that mean you'd go back to the homeowner's HOA to get approval for Exhibit 2 if that's the decision?
I would need to, yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Any ideas about how to go forward?
Well, I suppose if I have ideas, I just don't know how popular they are. I understand the petitioner wants a pool of a certain size. I understand that. I respect that the petitioner wants to make his pool equipment more of his problem and less of his neighbor's problem. But are those reasons to grant a zoning variance? Well, unless people have more to say, I guess I'm ready to make a motion. Well, I got to get back to the right page now. Good at that either. All right, here we go. I move that docket 2025-17-DSV Development Standard Variance to reduce the east side yard setback requirement for property located at 9957 Ford Valley Lane B denied as presented and described.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Fedora, could we have a roll call vote, please? Mr. Dale?
Okay, so an affirmative vote is a vote to deny.
Correct.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Aye. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is docket number 2025-19-DSV. Danielle and Patrick Pizet. Are they are with us? Thank you. We'll start by having the staff report, and then you'll have your chance to present your petition, please. Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am. Let me pull this up. So this is a development standard variance request, property address 110 North 3rd Street. This is a house that's in the village. It sounds like there's a lot of requests going through here, but just to be clear, and we'll go over in the staff report each request, but just to eliminate any possible confusion, many of these requests are pre-existing conditions, okay? Many of these requests are pre-existing. The only thing with this project that is changing will be in respect to lot coverage, okay? And we'll go through that. But to get specific, so there's four requests that we're addressing through this petition that the petitioner's trying to get approval on. Reduce the north side yard setback, reduce the west side yard setback, reduce the aggregate side yard setback. Again, all three of those are pre-existing conditions. And then the final one is where the change is occurring, which is to exceed the maximum lot coverage for the village, which is, the standard is 35%, but if you take advantage of the 2% credit, it's 37%, okay? So to go through the staff report, I guess the easier way to look at this would be on the site plan, but a summary of what the site plan is going to show. If you look at the north side yard setback, the standard for the village is 5 feet, and due to a pre-existing condition, it currently sits at 2 foot 4 inches. The second one, the development standard variance for the west side yard setback, again, the standard in the zoning ordinance is 5 feet. Due to a pre-existing condition, you'll see on the site plan there's a deck. That deck goes all the way to the property line, which is why this request is to go from 5 feet to 0. And then when you look at those two pre-existing conditions, they impact the petitioner's ability to meet standard number 3, which is the aggregate side yard setback requirement of 15 feet. The north is 2 feet 4 inches. The west is 0, so when you add that together, you get 2 feet 4 inches, right? So that's the third request, is to reduce it from 15 to 2 feet 4 inches. The final one is where the slight change is happening. Item number 4, a development standard variance to increase lot coverage. Currently, you're sitting at 38%, give or take. They're requesting 39%, okay? As it relates to the pre-existing conditions, staff supports those requests. To quickly go through them, variance number 1, the north side yard setback, reducing that from 5 to 2 feet 4 inches. Again, we agree with the petitioner. We do not believe granting this would be injurious to public health and safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. As it relates to item number 2, we don't believe granting this would impact the use or value of adjacent properties. And then item number 3, as it relates to this request, strict application of the zoning ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. We agree with the petitioner. This is a condition that they inherited. Again, so it's very challenging. It would be challenging for them to meet that standard. So we support granting variance number 1. As it relates to variance number 2, reducing the west side yard setback, reducing that from 5 feet to 0. Again, this is a pre-existing condition. As you will see on the site plan when I switch over to it here in just a second, the deck goes all the way to the property line. It's been there for quite a while. As it relates to public health and safety, we agree with the petitioner. This will not impact or be injurious to public health and safety. The use or value of the adjacent area will not be impacted. We agree with the petitioner on that criteria. And then number 3, strict application of the zoning ordinance would result, in this case, in unnecessary hardship, again, given that it's a pre-existing condition. Staff supports this request. Item number 3, variance number 3, reduce the aggregate side yard from 15 feet down to 2 feet 4 inches. Again, staff supports this. It's a pre-existing condition. As it relates to the 3 findings, this will not be injurious to public health and safety. The use or value of the adjacent properties would not be adversely impacted. And then as it relates, again, to unnecessary hardship, this is not something that was self-created by the petitioner, pre-existing condition that they inherited. For that reason, again, staff supports variance number 3. Where staff deviates from the petitioner is variance number 4, increasing lot coverage from what is currently 38% to what they are proposing, which is 39%. For the first 2 items, we agree again with the petitioner. It's not going to be injurious to public health and safety. We also don't believe the proposed use, would be adversely impacting the use or the property values of adjoining properties. It's item number 3, as it relates to unnecessary hardship. Again, I don't want to sound repetitive, but staff believes hardship cannot be self-created. There have to be no other solutions on the table for variance to be granted, in staff's opinion. The fact that there are possible other solutions, for example, in the narrative, I believe it was 9% lot coverage that was mentioned on paver patios or decks, right? If you only need 1%, maybe consider removing 1% of your deck or 1% of the paver patios, or possibly redesign it to put the stairs inside of the structure, right? These are just ideas that we're bouncing around, not saying the petitioner has agreed to any of those. But due to these types of other solutions, staff believes, coupled that with the fact that it is self-created, it is a construction project, that's why we disagree with the petitioner on item number 3. So for variance number 4, as it relates to lot coverage, staff does not support that element of this request. Variance number 1, 2, and 3, staff supports granting those variances. Variance number 4, we are unfavorable toward that. And just to show you a site plan quickly, to recap what I was saying, here's the existing deck. You'll see it goes all the way to the lot line, so that number is going to be 0. The site plan currently shows 3 feet 4 inches, but after talking with Todd, the overhang, it's actually 2 feet 4 inches. That number is actually 2 feet 4 inches. So that's where that number comes from. If you look at the lot coverage, you'll see, and I believe the owner, the petitioner, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just a staircase that is extending out, and you'll see that reflected here in the proposed addition. So that's what's causing the increase in lot coverage to go from 38 to 39%, is the staircase to get to the loft space above the garage. Again, aggregate is the fourth one that I didn't talk about, but the aggregate is not changing, again, because of the existing deck and the location of the existing garage. The setback encroachments, nothing's changing there. The aggregate is not changing. The only change that's occurring is with the 4-foot addition for the staircase that will allow the the owner to get to the loft space above the garage. Happy to answer any questions. I will point out, the owner, the architect, they submitted a letter committing, or I guess they would be happy to agree to the conditions of not renting this out, so it won't be a rental. And I believe there was another one on there about not putting in a cooking appliance, so it won't be a second dwelling unit. So if you have concerns about it being a rental or it becoming a second dwelling unit, they've already preemptively committed to not doing that. Happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, if I might, I do have a question. They're currently at existing 38%. That's a non-conforming existing use, is that correct? Or did they
That's
receive
not,
a variance
that's not,
to get?
yeah, they have, if you look,
That's a lot of reading.
yeah. I don't want to tell you wrong, so I'm going to pull it up in front of me because I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. But there was a previous, right here, the zoning history. If you look in 2016, there was a previously approved variance. In that staff report, it was 37%. I'm sure it was some variable of 37%, which is why we're saying it's 38%. But either way, there have been variances granted, but it was for, in that case, in 2016, it was for an existing covered porch and a two-story addition, is what our records show. And then you'll see in 2023, this same request was, I believe it was the same request was originally filed in 2023, but it was withdrawn. We never made it to the public hearing. So
Okay.
that's the only history we have.
All right, thank you for the clarification. I
So-
missed that.
When you say there was an existing covered porch, so that was a legal non-conforming, that covered porch, or that was an addition that was done at the same time
So
as
it-
a second-story addition?
When it's granted a variance,
Right.
it's no longer considered legal
But
non-conforming.
it was existent at the time.
I believe it
was
was
part of
new
the house.
construction. I believe the variance that was approved in 2016 approved new construction of items that were not there previously, that were then approved to be built onto the property.
Because in reading the narrative, this home is rated as an outstanding home because of its, the integrity of its historic materials and features. So I don't know how much alteration it's had over the years. I guess we'll find that out from petitioner and her architect.
Yeah, I will rely on, I'm sure they're going to be Todd's going to be
Right.
the expert on that, so I'm
So
going to rely on
that's fine.
him. Our records admittedly are very limited, especially pre-COVID. We didn't really start making our things digital until COVID, and so records that are 2016 are oftentimes very limited, you know. So I'll rely on Todd and his expertise as far as that's concerned.
So the first three variances are essentially giving the blessing to things that are already in place, and it's just to make them,
Just to clean it up,
right.
right? You have an opportunity, you're here, so let's try to clean it up to eliminate any headaches in the future. Nothing's changing as far as the first three variances.
Further questions for staff?
Yes, in the petitioner's initial filing, it looks like there was 5 variance requests. The 5th one would have been extension into the setback. Has that been removed?
Yeah, so essentially, what me and Todd had this conversation in an email, and I was the one that instructed to eliminate the 5th one. I believe that is the north side yard setback, if I'm correct. And essentially, it did make sense to ask for a variance on the north side to reduce it down to 3 feet, and then ask for a second variance in the same meeting for the north side to reduce it to 2 feet 4 inches, right? So if you're going to ask for a variance, ask for 2 feet 4 inches, and if 3 feet is covered in 2 feet 4 inches, right? So just ask for one. Saved them $380 as well. So,
Gotcha. I just noticed that when I was going through the.
and plus, I
petitions.
believe the encroachment, the overhang is already 2 feet 4 inches anyway, correct? So, so it was going to be 2 feet 4 inches regardless.
Further questions for Mr. Smith? Not, then we ask the petitioner to please come to the podium, give your name and address, please.
Hello, Todd Rotman, address 320 West Hawthorne Street. With me is petitioner Danielle Pizzette, address 110 North 3rd Street. So as you can tell, Jonathan and I have been working on this for quite a bit, and I just wanted to give kudos to Jonathan. You've got a great staff member working for you. He always makes himself readily available, and he's always giving truthful, honest answers and advice. And so it's rare, that we actually make it up here to the podium, because he's good about letting us know, things that just really might not be appropriate. In this particular case, we felt like we had a good reason for doing this and a legitimate hardship. So before I get started, I did want to clarify one thing in the documents. It does say that it's a 4,000 square foot home. And so as we talk about trying to gain an additional living space above the garage for her father, it sounds like, well, why would you need that? With this house being listed on as an outstanding house, the second floor is built into a roof pitch. And so when you take out that space that's less than 7 feet, which isn't really considered habitable space according to building code, we're down to 2,800 square feet. And then that portion that is 7 feet in the existing home on that second floor is kind of your walkway, right? So it's kind of, you can't really put a bedroom in part of that. And so I just wanted to clarify that it's not a 4,000 square foot house, it's 2,800 and even less than that with actual usable space.
The house is 155 years old. It's a little wonky.
Yeah. So we're definitely in agreement with Jonathan on those first three items. The fourth one would be for the lot coverage and the definition of hardship. We have talked about it being a very unique property in that it's rated outstanding, which is the highest level that you can get. To answer your question, that outstanding rating was granted after the addition in 2016, so it still maintains that outstanding rating. And the deck and having a living space on that western side was part of the construction drawings for that. Staff at that time were not as good as Jonathan, and they did not have us get variances for these existing conditions. That's why they don't exist, and so that's why we're trying to clean those up now.
Is it worth mentioning it wasn't me? Okay.
She was not the homeowner at that time either, so she has
inherit.
inherited this. As mentioned in a previous case, this lot is less than 8,000 square feet, so the day that this zoning ordinance was adopted, this lot was in non-compliance from the get-go. And so as far as hardship goes, having the lot being smaller than 8,000 is obviously not a self-created condition. And then her father developing a mental disability, needing to move in with family, is also, in our opinion, not a self-created condition. As mentioned, we try to not show up here. We try to solve problems in any way that we can, and we've been working on this for quite a while, and we haven't been able to find another way to get a living space in their house for her father. And in addition to that, okay, you could shove him in a corner, but we want to maintain his dignity, right? And so we're trying to create a space that he can feel is his own, but he is still being watched over by family and still have people there that can help him.
And while creating some normalcy for my family and my 6-year-old.
Right, not having dad move into the house and have, 3 generations in the house proper. So that's kind of how we got here, and all we're requesting is a 1% increase in the lot coverage in order to get a stair up to a living space above the garage. It's worth noting we're not tearing down the garage. We're going to keep the foundation, we're going to keep the walls, we will remove the roof, and we do have to expand it to the front so we can actually get a stair in the back. We are not able to get a stair in the current garage because it is about 21 feet interior dimension. As an architect, if in a dense urban environment, we can go down to about 20 feet on a garage and still get a car in there. So we don't have the room to add this stair, so that's why we're adding the stair. It is an abnormally narrow garage, and so for things like trash cans, et cetera, is why we also need some of that depth. So we got a stair, and then we'll have room for trash cans and things like that, so they're not outside. In regards to the lot coverage, we do want to highlight that several years ago, they put in pervious grass pavers in about 1,200 square feet of the public right-of-way in order to improve drainage and the aesthetics along 3rd Street. And this additional 1% is actually going on an existing driveway. So we're not increasing the impervious area through this project, it is going to remain the same, as it is now. We do have the opportunity to actually capture that additional 4 feet of water, though, into downspouts, which can be put into the yard because there is a sizable yard to the south of this garage that we can collect more water than the driveway would, which automatically just takes the water down to 3rd Street. Another item that we think is kind of important is that there is a precedent for having a carriage house on this alley. The 3 neighbors across from them all do have carriage houses that have similar size and function. 2 of them did receive variances from this commission in the past in order to accomplish that, and one of those actually was just to create room for the stair. So, it is something that has occurred before. It has occurred on this alley. And the one building that didn't need a variance is actually the historic building and is actually the largest building of these carriage houses. So we're definitely staying within kind of the character of this alley and the neighbors and kind of being consistent with, what has occurred along that alley. And so, we feel like we do have a real hardship. We do feel like this is a very unique property with its own set of challenges. We do feel like what we're doing is in keeping what's happening on that alley already. And there's a series of support letters from neighbors that are in your packets that are all the people around the house that are in support of this. And so we do not feel like it would be, a detriment to the neighborhood or any of the direct neighbors.
I think you have 9, and I actually have a 10th letter.
Yeah. Just in case there was any question about, hey, we came here before trying to get a variance for a project and we withdrew it. That was a different project than this. It had a screened-in porch and things like that. We dropped that. I told her that project's dead. We're not going to be able to do that. Then with her father developing his mental illness, we had to find a solution. And so we're here for a different project than we were here before. And just so you know that we're being truthful about this, she does have documentation with her tonight showing her as the POA, the trustee, the medical directive, and all the medical records documenting his condition, if anybody would like to review those to make sure this is a legitimate request.
We appreciate that, but we tend to take people on their honor,
Yeah.
their good faith. So
Yep.
we appreciate that.
Yep,
Other
that's
question-
it for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Questions for the petitioner or Mr. Rothman?
In staff's description and in their staff report, they didn't just address moving the stairwell into the garage, which you made an argument for why that wasn't practical for your purposes. But they also talked about reducing pavers and deck sizes. Could you help me understand why it would be a hardship to reduce impervious surfaces by reducing deck size or pavers?
Sure. Yeah, there are no pavers on the site at all. So there's the deck.
Okay, the deck.
And
Sorry.
the existing porch, which is 155 years old.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't wanna touch that.
So our alternative would be to remove a portion of the existing deck that is there. So, we view that as a hardship. It's something that's there. It's something that is part of the property. It's not, a condition that they self-created. And, it's a financial impact to remove that and getting the best use out of the property and actually diminishing, some of the use. So we feel like it's an unreasonable request to do that when the impact on the neighborhood, visually, from a water standpoint, et cetera, there's really no negative impact.
So the addition itself is 4 feet and runs the entire length of the garage.
Yeah.
And you're adding the staircase inside the garage in that additional 4 feet?
Correct, yeah. We'll be putting it on the west side. So
Right.
while the addition's on the east side, that's going to be garage, and the stair gets pushed to the west side.
We have anyone else here that would like to speak about this petition this evening? Anyone online? Okay, thank you. Thoughts, questions?
I guess I have a question for staff. Had they come in with a plan to reduce impervious areas that match the current level of lot coverage, would they have required a variance?
You know, this would be a conversation I would have with Mike Dell, right? Because typically variances that are previously approved, right? For example, the one in 2016 that granted 38% or 37%, right? Typically, those approvals are based on information submitted, like the submitted site plan, right? So if your approval is tied to a submitted site plan, even though your lot coverage is increased to 37%, if you deviate from that site plan in what we call a substantial manner, then you essentially void the variance that was granted, right? So the conversation Mike Dell and I would have would be, look, they previously got approved for 37%, but, you know, the site plan doesn't match exactly what was previously approved. So
Okay, I
I
understand.
Is that a substantial change, right? And so, you know, we did not receive a counter solution, so I didn't have a counter solution to show Mike Dell for Mike to then make that decision about whether or not it would be a substantial change. But those would be conversations that we would have had we received a different proposal that was more aligned with 37 or 38%. But we just didn't. We got 39%. And they felt passionate about their request. They still feel passionate about it. So they wanted to move forward with their request as was proposed.
Thank you, John.
Is there discussion? What's the sense of the board?
Sense of the board is, I have a lot easier time with commercial properties. It's the sense of this board member.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I really do appreciate getting all these things cleaned up. The first three of these getting cleaned up and straightened up. But, you know, lot coverage is there for a reason. In my opinion, or at least for me, it's flood concerns. And I think we've seen in the last year, a lot of communities deal with flooding. Another one this last weekend. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but it's the reason why we have these standards in the village. You know, I remember the old feed mill that's set right very close to this house, and trying to clean that basement out when I was a kid. It was old because it would always flood every time it rained in the village. We've done a very good job of setting standards to try to prevent that from happening in the future. And I mean, we have that standard there for a reason.
I very much would be in support of this if we were keeping the percentage of lot coverage at the same number.
Yeah.
I believe you were here earlier for earlier discussions. And, you know, when you're talking about percentages on a small lot, you're talking about a few hundred feet here and there, but, you know, it's accretive. It adds up as every time somebody is allowed to exceed lot coverage. And so I'll ask if there are changes you would consider to this project to keep it at that, as staff describes, 38% lot coverage. That you would quickly get a motion from me. I can't speak to anybody else on the BZA.
I think that's a valid point. There is one, and I wouldn't call it a hardship, but there is one complication, which is the fact that this is a historic home. So there are some elements that, for example, the existing porch, which is an integral part of that original home. So that adds a layer of complications that make it maybe a little harder to make those adjustments, those tweaks that you're talking about. I don't know about you know, there's a deck, and that may be something that could be made a bit smaller. 1% is not a lot. I don't know if that's an option or not an option, or if that would be integral to the house and create major architectural issues.
Yeah, the deck is not historic,
Right.
so it would not impact the rating.
The existing porch is.
Yeah, the front
Right,
porch is,
that's what I
but the
understood
deck
you
on the
to say.
western side
Yes.
is not. Yeah, and just to kind of address the water, you know, as we mentioned, we're already on impervious areas, so we're not increasing the impervious, and 1,200 square feet of impervious area was turned into pervious by the client previously, so they've taken measures to actually improve the drainage in the village, so this will not have a negative effect on that.
If you would help me with that. I heard you say it earlier, and I actually took a note, and I failed to follow up on it. Staff report says you're increasing lot coverage, and effectively, I hear you say you're not. Is this how in our zoning code, how we treat driveways? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, so
The-
unfortunately, we're working with a very broken zoning ordinance, and in talking with town staff, they will be working on redoing it once we kind of have a comprehensive plan in place. So we find ourselves trying to fix problems. I've been, you know, instrumental over the years helping the town identify some of these issues and make some changes to the zoning ordinance. They don't count driveways against you. So I could pave my entire lot, call it a driveway, and I would not need a variance for that. And
Interesting, there's a property near where I live that has done exactly that.
yeah. So we're putting this addition onto an area that's already a driveway.
Cement.
So
And it's a concrete,
it's concrete. All the water that hits that runs straight to the street. When we put a house on it, we can collect it in gutters and we can put it into the yard. So it's actually, you know, an improvement over the current situation for water drainage, you know, from the property. I have a really strong issue with decks counting against you because decks let water through. The fact that we're here even talking about a deck being part of lot coverage really bothers me. When they were doing the attempt at the new zoning ordinance, I put together a document in review of the residential portion of it and made suggestions like, don't have decks count against you, don't have swimming pools count against you, things that collect water, let water through. So, you know,
Count differently.
count it differently, something. So, yeah, the deck lets water through. We're putting the garage on a spot that is already concrete.
And like the 38%, that includes the deck and an existing porch. It's not the house.
Yeah.
That deck is just some wood.
Yeah, so, I mean, that deck probably represents about 3% lot coverage.
Not a covered deck. Yes.
It's just an open deck. It's this far off the ground. Now, they did change the zoning ordinance for decks and said if your deck is 6 inches above the ground, it can count as part of that 2% pervious
Legal,
area.
yeah.
Well, what's the difference between a deck that's 6 inches off the ground and 16 inches off the ground? It's the same deck, and you can't put wood deck joists in that 6-inch space. You'd have to dig a hole under the deck so you could get your 12-inch joists in there. So there's issues with the current zoning, and we just try to work within it, and when we need variances from it, you know, appeal to you guys for that. So we definitely are at your mercy for interpretation and acceptability.
so removing the deck and putting permeable pavers in that place instead of the deck would give them 2%, would take 2% off of the, is that right?
I think you said 3, right? The deck is maybe 3%.
I was just throwing out an estimate. I
Right,
could look
I
at
understand,
the
but
exact
taking the
numbers,
total,
but
that would, you'd be able to
Yeah.
take 2%
You know,
off because of the use
yeah.
of permeable.
And they need 1, right? Or maybe 2.
Yeah.
we
Right
need
now, you're
1%,
yeah.
right?
So, you know, if this is denied, if that's what happens, you know, we would love to work with y'all to find a solution for the 1 or 2%, whatever that is. Ideally, we would have liked to had it before BZA, but obviously y'all felt passionate about having hardship. So, who are we to take that away from you, right? So
You advised us accurately that
you know,
you would
so
not
if,
be in
no,
support.
just if the outcome is negative,
Yeah.
that's going to be a conversation we have, right? Where can we find 1%? Where can we find 2%? You know,
Yeah, it's that deck. It's removing that deck, you know, which you know, the value of that deck in today's market's about $12,000, so you take off, you know, part of that deck. It's a financial hardship, and it's a loss of usable
Right.
space that doesn't
Right.
make any sense, because we're not changing how much water's going in the
Right.
ground.
Yeah, the size of that deck, if you cut it in half, it's thin as step. It's not, these are small, it's a small lot
Yeah.
that barely fits a four-person table on there. With
I
enough
understand.
room to put the chairs out, so you lose 1%, we lose the deck, so I hear you.
I understand.
You lost me for just a second there. You said the value of this deck is $12,000?
Yeah, to-
How much per square foot are you valuing this deck at then?
Yep.
I know the village is
Build-
high, but are we that
Building it,
high?
yeah. Yeah, Trex. Have you priced out Trex lately? Holy cow. It's,
I think just the point was that 1%,
yeah.
Right.
it becomes unusable.
Yeah.
That's why they built it to the line, because
Mhm.
you needed it, but.
I concede I did not price out that deck, so,
Yeah.
you know, 12 was my estimate. If I'm high, yeah, I could
just-
definitely be high.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
Are we, this is another case where allowing, or having the perfect be the enemy of the good, to me, because I think, you know, 1%, particularly when it's 1% that's going to be going over what is already a concrete driveway, as far as hardscape and actual issues with drainage, it seems to me that those are, that they're the same to that impact. And to his point of being able to have gutters on the building that will, that instead of having it run down to the street, will actually be able to direct the water in a way. So, I mean, it's less about the drainage and it's more about saying, okay, our number is this, and so let's just hold fast to that unless somebody can demonstrate why it's really a problem for them. I want to be sure that we continue to use judgment about having people be allowed to use their places in use meaningful ways. But,
And I fully understand and take your point.
right,
This is, they have existing variances, there's no doubt about it. This isn't a 1% change, this is 4% over the
Right.
lot coverage rules.
because of the
And so we're really
previous-
talking about a second variance on lot coverage for this property, not for this homeowner, not for this need, but for this property.
One more question I had, that you had mentioned this house had an outstanding rating in the 2021 Zionsville Historic Site and Structure Inventory. What, is that something the town did? What is that?
Yeah, it was directed through the Sullivan Muntz Center, Cultural Center, and it involved Indiana landmarks. And it was the last survey, oh man, it might have been the 80s or something when the last survey was done. I can't remember. There was a previous one. I've got that book as well. So they wanted to update it in an effort to try to preserve, you know, what's important in the village and document what's there, because we are losing houses. And so in 2021, they commissioned a new study, and it was paid for. I don't know what, if any, of town funds were utilized for it. I don't know, because I wasn't involved in that aspect of it. But I was my company was a personal sponsor, of the program, because we thought it was a good idea. And so it is an official document that's recognized by Indiana Landmarks. It's available for purchase or viewing at Sullivan Muntz Cultural Center. And they did document every single building in the village and give it its date, rating it, what style is it, what modifications, if any, have been made, and whether those are appropriate or not. And the outstanding is the highest rating.
I believe there's only 20 homes in the village that have that rating. That's a special.
Yeah, it's definitely a special, unique situation, yeah.
I was just unaware, I didn't know what it was, so.
Yeah.
Do we need more discussion?
We-
Are we ready to make some kind of a decision? Jonathan, one question. This, in 2016, the lot coverage was increased to 37%, correct? And now it's at 38%, and they're asking for it to be 39%, or have I missed something here?
The research we found, and you're spot on, showed in 2016, the staff report and all documents reflected 37%. I'm not 100% sure where 38% came from, but trusting Todd, I'm not pushing that argument, right? Either way, even if it's 38% or 39%, both numbers are over 37. And so, again, staff report from 2016 showed 37%. I'm not sure where 38 came from. Trusting Todd, I decided, let's move forward with Todd's numbers. And if y'all had questions, I was hoping maybe I don't know where we would get at this point. I don't know where 38% came from. But 39% is over both of them. So variances are going to be needed either way.
Excuse me, the first three variances are kind of not difficult to, this is just essentially cleaning up what is already existent. So those are not, I don't think, unless you correct me.
In that regard, thank you for reminding me. I'd be happy to make a motion on
Where we get more challenging
Yeah.
waters is the fourth. And so are we at a
So,
point to make a decision?
Well, certainly, I'd be willing to make a motion on their first motion. I move that docket 2025-19-DSV Development Standards Variance to reduce the north side yard setback requirement to 2 feet 4 inches for property at 110 North 3rd Street be approved as presented and described based on the findings of the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted finding of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and evidence presented during the public hearing.
Mr. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fedora. Is there any discussion? Do we need a roll call vote, Mr. Dale?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Dale, would you please?
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
Josh Martin.
Aye.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Do we have?
Oh,
Did you ask for your public and if there's anyone from
Yes.
the public who wants to
Okay.
speak on
We did.
these? Okay, thank
all
you,
right,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'd
I
forgotten.
just sat here, I was like, oh no, I couldn't remember if you did or didn't.
I did. Do we have a motion for the second variance?
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
I move that docket 2025-19-DSV Development Standards Variance to reduce the west side yard setback requirement to 0 for property at 110 North 3rd Street be approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report, staff recommendations, submitted findings of facts, substantial compliance with the submitted site plan, evidence presented during the public hearing.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any further discussion? Mr. Dale, please.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
Josh Martin.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Aye.
Third one, I move that docket number 2025-19-DSV Development Standard Variance to reduce the aggregate side yard setback requirement to 2 feet 4 inches for property at 110 North 3rd Street be approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and evidence presented during the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Fedor beat me to it.
Josh Fedor, second.
Yes.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Mr. Dale, please.
Josh Martin.
Aye.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Aye. So that leaves us with variance number 4, the increase in lot coverage. Are we ready to make a motion in that regard?
So can we make your job a little easier?
Certainly, anything that
All right.
makes our job easier.
We are willing to change our request to 38% to allow for an addition onto the garage and removal of equal amount of square feet from the deck on the west side.
Are you better at this on the fly than I am, Josh? You probably am, but I can do it if you want.
Yes, I can. Hold on. No, I'm gonna put these things off. I move that docket 2025-19-DSV Development Standards variance to increase the lot coverage to 38% with a decrease in north side deck equivalent to the square footage required for the stairwell. For property at 110 North 3rd Street be approved as presented and described based on findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, evidence presented during the public hearing. And I kind of
I'm just
choppy
wondering
on
if
that
we're
one.
better to approve this conditionally or with certain conditions. Is that a cleaner way to do this?
Yes, yeah.
So
it's-
if you, with your permission, I don't know if we can just rewind or whether we need to just have another motion. I'm looking to you.
I need a second if I,
Mr.
Yeah.
Kathy, if I would need a second on the
If we don't
first
second
motion.
it, yeah.
Okay.
It dies.
All right.
Okay.
So
Just
are
a
we-
clarification, it's the west deck.
Yes.
West deck, sorry.
Okay,
Yep.
so perhaps conditionally approved with that, with the conditions as they've stipulated would be the way that we might clean this up if someone's ready to make another attempt.
Yeah, we got killed on a second, so, I move that docket 2025-19-GSV Development Standards variance to increase the lot coverage to 39% for the property at 110 North 3rd Street be conditionally approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and conditions committed during the meeting of reducing the west side deck for the equivalent square footage needed for the stairwell
To meet the 38%
to meet the
lot coverage.
38% coverage, correct.
Is that sufficient?
Yeah, we understand.
Did I get
Yes.
us there?
Clear?
Second.
So we read the sample motion, and the sample motion said increase lot coverage to 39% with a condition now that approves it at 38%.
Correct.
So if we could just like make it a conditional motion to approve it at 38%, with the condition being that you remove equal portions of the west deck, right? So a conditional approval at 38%, with the one condition being that you remove equal amounts of square footage from the west deck. Because I know if we approve a motion at
Right.
39%,
Amendment?
I would.
Is that sufficient? So would second?
We've amended the motion to accommodate that it will be 38% instead of 39% with the addition, the 1% coming from the deck, or the west side deck. Does that make sense to everyone? Are we all clear? Is that?
just trying to make it easy for y'all when you get to the inspectors, because I know if
Right.
that motion gets to the inspectors, it might be
And the
confusing.
next person has to decide what we decided.
Did we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Further discussion, or is that enough? Mr. Dale, would you?
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite.
Aye. We got there.
Thank you guys
Good
for our
luck on your project.
conversation. Sorry it took so long.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're going to take just a 1-minute timeout, so.
Gotcha.
understood what I was signing.
You never know sometimes what Johnson's going to throw in front of us.
Oh, did you get some water? Okay. Okay. I thought we needed some help. We got into some waters there.
You can look them up on the fly. So.
You're welcome. There's the. So I think we need to wait. Representative from Vanderbilt here with us this evening? Good. Okay. Thank you. Then we'll have the staff report, and then you'll have the opportunity to make your presentation. Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am. So this is a special exception. The property is zoned ag, which means in terms of use, it falls under the use table found in section 194082. If you look at that table, which I provided a snippet down here, my arrow disappeared, but ignoring that, if you look at the table, property zoned ag, and you'll see there's an S by landscape contractor. So what that means is this use in this zoning district requires the special exception. So that's what we're here requesting. When you look, or when staff reviewed these type of requests, we look at the comprehensive plan, the zoning district, and the surrounding land uses. As it relates to the special exception request, there are 3 criteria that we have to review. One being the proposed use will not be injurious to public health and safety. Second, the proposed use will not injure or adversely affect adjacent area or property values. And the third, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district, land uses authorized therein, and the town's comprehensive plan. It's important to note that this property historically was essentially under the jurisdiction of Boone County. And while it was under the jurisdiction of Boone County, it received a special exception to allow the use of landscape contractor while it was under the jurisdiction of Boone County. The problem we ran into with this specific case, given that there was limited information available from the county as it related to exactly what was approved, staff had to determine that unless it was of equal intensity, that any increase in intensity to that use would require a new special exception. So to be clear, there is an existing landscape contracting business on site already that was approved under the jurisdiction of Boone County. What the petitioner is doing is increasing the intensity, and you'll see on the site plan some of the proposals that they're adding to the site. That increase in intensity is the reason why, coupled with our zoning ordinance and the use, right, is the reason why we're here asking for this special exception. Had they fallen in line with the existing operations from the existing business, this would have been covered under the special exception from Boone County. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening, and so that's why we're here. As it relates to item number 1, the proposed use will not be injurious to public health and safety. Staff agrees with this petitioner, mainly in part as it relates to the next approval process in this project. So if this use is approved, the proposal that the petitioner is showing on their concept, those improvements would have to go through not only TAC, but through our development plan approval process through Plan Commission. Those entities that are a part of TAC, the development plan process, generally speaking, is designed to ensure that the project is safe for the public, right, and for the community. So given those standards are still applicable to this project, staff believes this petitioner, or agrees with this petitioner, that this standard has been met. As far as the proposed use, again, we agree, and this gets back to my previous explanation. Although the site increases in intensity, it actually continues the existing use of the property, which again is landscape contractor. The development standards for this district will require buffer yards, as well as landscaping between the proposed use and any adjoining residential homes. Those buffer yards and or landscaping. The intent is to reduce or eliminate adverse effects that could be caused by this increase in intensity. Additionally, just from a visual standpoint, the petitioner intends to replace, and I believe, he can correct me if I'm wrong, intends to replace the existing pole barn that's there with 2 new structures that are shown on the concept plan. Staff believes this improvement would add value, which in turn would have a positive impact on the surrounding property values. So again, for those reasons, staff agrees as it relates to criteria number 2. Criteria number 3, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district, land uses authorized therein, and the town's comprehensive plan. Again, we agree with the petitioner. When you look at the character of the district, the intent of the general ag zoning district, and I'm quoting on this, preserve farmland and establish continuous parcels of non-residential land. And that's exactly what this proposal is doing. If you look at their layout, they show that they are going to, first of all, the exhibit, this proposal encompasses technically 2 parcels, both of which will have farming operations, tree farming operations located on site. Again, given the use, the special exception is permitted in this district. However, special exceptions require an additional level of review by the BZA, which is what we're doing. So, the comprehensive plan. In this area, it recommends ag general. It's intended to serve as a buffer between high and low intensity residential development. It allows for both continued farming as well as limited residential development on well and septic. Although this project is not buffering between a high and a low intensity land use, it will provide buffering and landscaping between This site and adjoining residential developments, I believe they're located to the north and south of the property. If this request is granted, it would create an area that reflects the description in the comprehensive plan, an area that allows for both farming, which is reflected in the tree farming operations, and the limited residential development which surrounds this site. I believe it's to the north and to the south. So because of that reason, we believe criteria number 3 has also been met. Recapping, we agree with petitioner on all 3 criteria. Staff supports granting this request. If there's any questions related to our staff report, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you.
Questions for staff about this petition?
You said there's currently a landscaping business operating out of that facility currently, and it's in operation?
I believe, yeah, no, I want to say there was 3 or 4 employees. There was a limited number of employees, and I think the new proposal, there's an increase in employees. Obviously, there's an increase in services being provided, like the tree farming. And so given the fact that it wasn't apples to apples, we didn't want to put the petitioner in a situation where later on there could be questions about what was approved by Boone County versus what he's actually doing, which is why, given that increase in intensity, we're here. So.
Any other questions from staff? Okay, Vanderbilt, is there somebody here to represent Vanderbilt? And if you'd give your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Cross, attorney for the petitioner. Address is 13 North State Street, Suite 241 in Greenfield. Also along here with me is Colin and Mike, who are employees for Vanderbilt Tree Company. So Vanderbilt Commercial is the petitioner who is currently under contract to buy the property. Vanderbilt Tree Company, or Tree Care is their company. It's a family-owned business that was started over 25 years ago by Paul Zanders, who's sitting in the back here tonight. The company is currently ran by its president, John Zanders, who unfortunately had a prior engagement out of state, so he could not attend tonight. I do believe he is listening in. He was trying to view remotely, had some trouble, but told me he was listening. The company on the next slide shows where they currently operate. They are located in Westfield off of 32. They're the red dot kind of towards the center. They abut some residences to the north of them and some other businesses around them as well. So they've been operating now and have come to the realization that they need more space to operate. So the next slide shows where the aerial view of the property. So again, that you saw in the site plan as well in the staff report. It's a 25-acre comprised of 2 parcels. To the north is a residence, south as well. The next slide showed pictures looking east. That's to the south. The next one's to the north. And then this is on the property looking at the pole barn. And then that is to the south as well from the interior. And that's looking north from the outside of the pole barn. And that's looking west. So that gives you an idea of what the property looks like here. 25 acres lot, zoned rural ag. As stated by Jonathan, we are aware that the county, Boone County, did previously approve the landscaper contractor use. I contacted that planning department to try to dig up what was approved and whatnot, but unfortunately they weren't able to find the records. I don't know if it's so long ago, but I do know that the current owners who are in tenants, maybe they can shed some light on it if it's needed. But you do see that where they currently are in Westfield, they've been able to operate there. The same plan of operation that they conduct there in Westfield would be exactly what they do out here in Zionsville. They've been able to do so without any intrusion or complaints from the neighbors nearby. They also kind of help them out. They give them tree services as well by living right next to them. So the petitioner did submit a plan of operation, the next few pages, but if we can just go to the last slide showing the site plan. So in general, Colin will talk more a little bit about the business in general, but they provide tree trimming, pruning, health assessment, removal, emergency storm services. They are an agricultural company. They are well respected in the state of Indiana. They have 11 certified arborists on board, 22 employees in total. Most recently, they were voted Best of Indian Tree Service by Current Magazine for 2025 for Indianapolis, Zionsville, Fishers, Carmel areas. And they also do provide volunteering services throughout the state and areas. So as for the operations, again, they do have 22 employees currently. They work weekdays, hours are from 6 to 7. They occasionally do work on Saturdays for projects if it's needed. With respect to what goes on at the property, if you can go back to the site plan, Jonathan was correct that the existing pole barn shown there would be removed. There's a kind of purplish rectangle right where that pole barn is in front. That is where the new office space would be. Currently, Colin here is the sole office employee who he would work there. There would be a shop for the larger rectangle built as well with parking areas surrounding it. That shop's purpose would be to house equipment, materials that they use. So the day-to-day operations are the employees come to the property, get their machinery, get their trucks, then they drive off to serve their clients. 99% of the company's clients are all residential. The property is not open to customers coming and going as they want. Customers can come by appointment to look at trees and other materials if it's needed, but that's by appointment only. So this wouldn't be generating a whole lot of traffic. So the day-to-day is the employees come in the morning, take their trucks, leave, and typically come back at night when they leave again. So there's not a whole lot of activity that will be going on at the property. The site plan also shows where they intend to use the tree farms. That'll be the green rectangles on the right-hand and left-hand side of the pages. So that's the north side and the south side. So the north side does already have existing trees that would be incorporated into the tree farms. The south side, those would be grown and cultivated as well. With respect to that process,